For our Florida History Project, we chose the topic of Florida's real estate boom and bust of the 1920s, also known as the bubble in the sun and the money migration. There's a lot of quotes throughout the books that you can find that tie to this topic. However, some of our favorites are listed here. Page 161 out of Volume 2. Memories were still too fresh of what had happened in Miami and Miami Beach 2 years before when a September hurricane virtually destroyed the area, bringing an end to the great frenzied land boom. 161, 162. Saul purchased property after property, believing that someday the area would recover, because he knew of all those things that the McIvies had suffered, worse than this, and come back again and again, refusing to surrender. Saul and Bonnie watched from the sidelines as Miami grew and waited, frightened by all of it. Saul knowing that day by day and week by week his property became more valuable. Each rumor and each newspaper ad and circular listing land values stunned him, and he knew he would have to do something, but he continued to wait. And finally, from page 159, 160, after having it surveyed, Saul found that 6,000 acres of Miami property covered a portion of the commercial area of the city and extended into one of the most sought-after residential neighborhoods, including waterfront. He plotted only a small section at first just to see what would happen, breaking an acre into individual lots of 70 feet by 100 feet. Then he studied current prices listed by other firms, finding that lots ranged from $20,000 to $70,000 according to location. The Miami Beach acreage was even more valuable. He could not believe that people would actually pay so much money for land. By the end of the month, they had loaded a car with suitcases and set forth for the peaceful country, leaving behind over $80 million in their Miami vault. So you can see a lot of this is tied to real estate in Florida. The boom itself started in the 1920s, following World War I, when families of many different financial backgrounds finally had time and money to travel, explore, and vacation. These experiences created an attraction for investing in real estate. There was an increase in income and wages for the middle class in America. And there was also a big boom in transportation with the completion of the Flagler Railroad as well as the automobile. During this time, greyhound and horse racing also became a must-see event in Florida, and this attracted wealthy gamblers and many others from outside the state to come in and spend their money here and start funding things. And investing in Florida's real estate during this time was so popular and intriguing, as well as financially rewarding, that people who had never even stepped foot in the state were willing to put their money here. As a matter of fact, between 1920 and 1925, the Florida's population boomed by almost 30% and about 300,000 over 5 years, which for the time was a massive influx. Prior to the land bloom was the completion of Flagler Railroad in January 22nd, 1912. Henry Flagler finished the Oversea Railroad, which was the final extension to his Florida East Coast Railway, and it completed a section from Jacksonville to Key West. And he also developed some infrastructure such as schools, hospitals, and hotels along the route, which helped spur on the boom in the real estate sector. Beginning in the 1920s, the money migration got to moving, and it was spurred on by the completion of that railway system. And again, the increased salaries and wages from the middle class and the prevalence of the automobile. But that bubble would begin to unravel in 1925 while land prices continued to rise and there was more and more speculative investment. The banks started to shrink a little bit, and hurricanes in 1926 and 28 devastated the area and halted people's desire to buy here for fear of their investment. This was followed by the Great Depression from 1929 to 1930. That was a global impact and the largest economic downturn in modern history, and started in the U.S. October 24th, 1929, which is also known as Black Thursday, and was a massive market crash. We saw a halt in the production sector of American industry, deflation, massive unemployment, food shortages, and homelessness. Prior to the Florida land boom, this is very important for Florida history, because prior to 1920s land boom, Florida was primarily driven by cattle and the pioneer lifestyle. Much of the land remained undeveloped or underdeveloped, lacking infrastructure resources to support a large city living. Following this boom, it really set the tone for what Florida would be for the remainder of the 20th century and became more economically driven by agriculture, particularly citrus, as well as tourism.